Up here in Canada, yesterday kicked off Pride Week in Vancouver with a Trans Day of Visibility parade.
Vancouver Pride Festival is in full swing, with various events taking place across the city. But despite the celebratory atmosphere, the Vancouver Pride Society says pride is a protest and an important part of the fight for equality for the 2S LGBTQ plus community.
We're seeing rights and healthcare and privileges being taken away from people in our community, and we need to push back against that.
Alan Daly, co-chair of Vancouver Pride, says Canadian society has come a long way, but there is still a lot of work that needs to be done.
So I want to wish everyone a happy Trans Visibility Day and happy Pride Week. And I want to address some of the fear and loathing that's been going on. Recently there's been this obnoxious uproar about this Olympic boxer, Iman Khalif. They're claiming she's not a woman, she's a biological male, and the other boxer had never been punched so hard and dropped out after just 46 seconds or something. She's definitely a woman. She was born a girl, and she was raised a girl, and she identifies as female and a woman. And besides that, being trans is illegal in Algeria, where she's from.
This young girl from Italy, a champion boxer, she got hit so hard she didn't know what the hell hit her. It's a person that transitioned. He was a good male boxer. Yeah, he was a good male boxer. And she didn't even go down. He hit her with 2 jabs and she said, "I'm out."
I'm not going to assume anything because she's a woman and has been her whole life. And even the accusation of this, when she goes back to her country, could get her arrested or killed. But these flagrant liars, narcissists, sociopaths who care nothing about the things they say or who they say it about or to, have turned it into this thing because they think she looks like a man. The dangers of this foolishness right here cannot be overstated. But in her country, there's no such thing as trans, like they want to do here. They have a dictatorship where they are, like he wants to do here. So no, she's not. She couldn't be if she wanted to. That's how you like it, huh? You want to be like them. We want to be the ISIS of America.
And I want to address some of the GOP, mostly, that have been after this subject, and mostly about gay rights, since the 70s at least. In 1977, when Anita Bryant, a former actress, had a Save the Children campaign to repeal a local ordinance prohibiting sexual orientation discrimination, which is a huge setback for the community. And then over the years, like in the 2016 bathroom bill, backlash happened, and that was rescinded after corporations and sports teams and even the boss himself, Bruce Springsteen, drew attention to it. But legal groups such as Alliance for Defending Freedom, who are behind the Colorado Baker fictitious potential future homosexual customer looking for a wedding cake, might theoretically at some time in the future appear in her theoretical future shop. Even in 2021, Kristi Noem didn't sign a bill into law banning trans kids from kindergarten to college. But after an interview with Carlson, who said she's bowing to big business, 11 months later, she went back and signed a similar version of the bill in the interest of fairness. Over the last 3 years, according to the New York Times article on trans legislation in America, there have been at least 150 bills proposed over at least 25 states against trans youth, trans anything. And this movement is expanding over the last few years when they started to realize that the gay marriage issue wasn't the hot button it once was, they decided to look for something else, and so they landed on trans. Terry Schilling, the president of the Conservative American Principles Project, says this is a political winner, and that more people and voters would have been swayed had Republicans not shied away from the subject. The bills they proposed include banning transition care into young adulthood, also restrictions on drag shows using definitions that could broadly encompass performances by transgender people, measures that would prevent teachers, in many cases, from using names or pronouns matching students' gender identities, and requirements that schools out transgender students to their parents. That's a political winner. And lastly, of course, the new pick for VP running mate with the orange blob had a close friend, one of his Yale classmates, a public defender in Detroit, Sophia Nelson, says that he's not the person she used to know, who used to be compassionate and kind. If he didn't always agree, he came with respect and called their group in Yale the Island of Misfit Toys. He called her a lesbian at one point, but he said that apologized and was supportive of her, and even delivered baked goods to her when she was going through her transition.
An email all the way back from 2014, October. Vance writes you, quote, "I hate the police. Given the number of negative experiences I've had in the past few years, I can't imagine what a black guy goes through." And we just heard a moment ago Vance call police our protectors, and we back the blue in this country. But Sophia, for you, how passionate was he on the issue of police bias and brutality?
I mean, at the time, I believe JD was genuine in the email that you just quoted, and it certainly reflects my experience as a public defender here in Detroit.
So began to change after becoming a dad and starting a family. I want to ask you about that last sentence in just a moment, Sophia, if I may. But first, what he's saying here is that these issues, of which we've touched on some, from reparations to the police to racism, that this all changed because he had a family, because he became a dad. Do you think that that could be the case?
I mean, I don't live in JD Vance's head, obviously, but what I've seen is a chameleon, someone who is able to change their positions and their values depending on what will amass them political power and wealth.
And now they're all piling on her, saying, oh, those are private texts, they should never have been shared. Well, no, we need to know everything about these monsters running for the highest offices in the country. Now back to Canada, I'm not saying we're perfect. We have a lot of the same problems starting here because anything that happens in the States eventually starts here when you're closest neighbors. Although we do have federal protections, there are some differences.
We pull this together out of sheer will and sheer solidarity and sheer strength in our community. And I think it really goes to show just how much raw talent and passion and need there is for something like this, that you have hundreds of people coming together at great cost to themselves just to ensure that we are really putting forward ourselves, really making a case for the fact that trans rights are being heavily targeted in Canada. And we need to do something about it, and this is one of the things we try to do.
Just on Friday, a closed-door meeting between Alberta Premier Danielle Smith and select 2S LGBTQ+ community members drew criticism, with protesters outside the meeting saying the trans community was not being represented.
No one who cares about the life and wellness of transgendered Albertans is in that meeting.
This hatred and division has got to stop. We're all human. And being your best self, whether it means getting trans identity surgery or a facelift or fat reduction surgery, I mean, whatever makes you your best self and makes your life, improves your quality of life, makes you happy, why try to prevent that if you're supposed to be about freedom and rights and liberty? Vote for Kamala. Vote for freedom!